This is CityCast Twin Cities. I'm Sean McPherson, and here's what the cities are talking about. And when you were growing up, what was your favorite in-home meal?
Kraft macaroni and cheese. Don't need to overthink it.
I forgot that you were like our trash food specialist.
Yeah.
Tiffany, what was your Tiffany, what was your favorite in-home meal?
My mom would make a huge pot of her like snow fungus soup with egg, and it was my favorite, and I would eat it for like a week straight.
That sounds spectacular. My mom made Theraflu and taco casserole. I think those are the only two things I ever saw her cook growing up, and I certainly preferred taco casserole to Theraflu. That's M. Cassel, owner-editor of Racket, and Tiffany Bui, a producer here at CityCast. Today, we're talking about the federal government's brazen assault on Somalis in Minnesota. We're also talking about a very convoluted saga of a Twin Cities nerd, lawyer, and political hopeful who has been unwittingly roped into a right-wing cartoon. And on the lighter side, new restaurants.
Dun, da, da, da.
The worst is here. The worst has arrived in Minnesota. President Trump is using the power of the federal government to demonize entire countries, peoples, and cultures, and individual people as well. Earlier this week in a press conference, Trump said that Somalia, quote, stinks and is, quote, no good for a reason. It is worth it to hear a little bit more from this press conference.
No, I think that Waltz is a grossly incompetent man. There's something wrong with him, okay? There's something wrong with him. And when you look at what he's done with Somalia, which is barely a country, you know, they have no anything. They just run around killing each other. There's no structure. And when I see somebody like Ilhan Omar, who I don't know at all, but I always watch her for years, and I think she's an incompetent person. She's a real terrible person. But when I watch what is happening in Minnesota, the land of 1,000 lakes, or however many lakes they have, they got a lot of lakes, but this beautiful place, and I see these people ripping it off, and now I'm understanding, and you're going to look at that, Scott, I hear they ripped off Somalians, ripped off that state for billions of dollars, billions, every year, billions of dollars, and they contribute nothing. You know, our country's at a tipping point, and we're going to go the wrong way if we keep taking in garbage into our country. But when they come from hell and they complain and do nothing but bitch, we don't want them in our country. Let them go back to where they came from and fix it. Thank you very much.
It is almost as worrisome to hear the response from the room Trump was in as to hear what Trump said. In fact, that enthusiastic hitting on the table came from J.D. Vance. And this would be a terrible thing to hear someone say who had no power at all. This would be a terrible thing to hear someone say sitting next to them at the bar or hearing them say it in an editorial. But Trump's unhinged and racist statements have the power of the federal government behind them. The New York Times said that Minneapolis and St. Paul will see stepped-up deportation efforts this week. We are already seeing pictures on Reddit and elsewhere of ICE agents and federal officers arriving. And we're hearing reports and photos of these operations beginning in the Twin Cities. And we are seeing responses here in the Twin Cities. The mayors of Minneapolis and St. Paul, as well as some other leaders, stepped up and said they will stand firmly with the Somali community. But I'm curious how firm our leaders can stand with the Somali community. We've seen police officers from both cities involved to some extent in ICE operations. Some say that involvement was just crowd control. I say that when I see you unload the majority of a canister into one person's face, I'm not certain that qualifies as crowd control. Tiffany and M, how firm do you think our leaders can stand against the federal government's operations?
That was the big question I had yesterday watching the press conference with Minneapolis and St. Paul city leaders. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey made a point to say MPD will not aid in these immigration-related arrests, and they won't, help out with those things. But I think I myself and many of the people I know are justifiably not super convinced by that, having seen having seen the way things have unfolded over the last couple of weeks in Minneapolis already. To your point, Sean, those videos from the raid in St. Paul last week have like really stuck with me. The just, unloading of huge canisters of pepper spray and chemicals and the less lethal rounds. The officer who raised his weapon at a person who had to have a fellow officer push it down so that he wasn't pointing it at a citizen. I mean, things escalated really quickly, and I do remain wary about for what amount of time we can rely on that promise.
Yeah, and I know that council members and immigrant advocacy organizations are pushing for a stronger separation ordinance in Minneapolis. Minneapolis already does have a separation ordinance, but they're wanting to make it stronger and really clarify the distinction between local police and federal activities, and making sure local police are not involved in it in any way. However, even Mayor Melvin Carter, who has been extremely vocal and on the ground during these raids, there were St. Paul police officers on the scene in the St. Paul raids, assisting with crowd control and, like you said, at times like spraying people with irritants. So is there communication between the police department and the mayor's office? Is this a tacit approval by Mayor Melvin Carter and Mayor Jacob Fry's office that to some extent police do need to help federal officers? How much can we trust what they say when they say what they're going to protect our community? And how much can we trust them when they say this is a sanctuary? These are sanctuary cities.
So why this focus on the Somali community right now?
I think, in a word, racism, in the sense that the reason it's happening now has a lot to do with conflating the actions of a handful of Somali Minnesotans who have been accused and in some cases acknowledged fraud, and conflating that with the entire community. That's why it's happening like this week. I think the reason it happens ever, or the reason the gaze for some particular moment goes on some particular group of people, is because of racism. And I don't believe it's inflammatory for me to say it's racism. It is associating an entire group with the actions of a smaller subset of that group, a glancingly small subset of that group in this case. Mm-hmm. And I want to add the extra power of not just the actions, but how that will frighten people who go, maybe this is not the place for me. Maybe it's time for me to move out, even if my paperwork is correct. Maybe it's time for me to move out, even if I have citizenship. It is this moment where the power of the federal government is a lot more than the 100 agents who flew here days ago. It's the power of making people think that this country is not open to Somalis. And this is one of the most jarring moments of disconnects for me between the federal government and my state government, where I feel like my state government has been pretty straight line since the mid-1990s of making a home for Somali people, welcoming them in tons of official ways and tons of unofficial ways. And now we're seeing our federal government act in a completely opposite mode. And it is jarring. Sounds like jarring is like, that's a weird paint color. This is jarring in the sense of me going, is this the start of a disconnect where I'm going to not feel remotely allied with the federal government in any regard?
If you do see ICE activity or federal activity in your community, one of the best things you can do is call the Monarca Rapid Response Hotline. Are you guys familiar with this?
Yes, but we would love to familiarize our audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like for those who don't know, Monarca does great work. They host legal observer trainings for things like federal raids for folks who want to show up and not protest necessarily, but to be a legal observer. They also have a rapid response hotline. That phone number is 612-441-2881. And if you see what you believe or suspect to be ICE or federal activity in your community, you can call that hotline. They will get people on the ground. These are like times where like we as Minnesotans are going to have to start stepping up in our own communities. And that is like, just save that number in your phone. Be ready, because we know that these raids are happening. They will come to your neighborhood, and you should be ready to support in some way, whatever that support is going to look like to you.
Yeah, thank you for that resource, That's really important. And I want to acknowledge that there is so much news about how Trump is attacking Minnesota. They have so many lakes. Shut up. What do you know about our lakes? Come on. Another thread of this story is that Trump is threatening to withhold SNAP funding to Democratic states. He is alleging that it's rampant with fraud, and he needs this personal information, individually identifiable information, in order to root out fraud. Sean, how do you think this connects into this racist tirade at the press conference he did the other day?
I believe it connects because it is treating a large group of people and punishing a large group of people for the actions of a few. And in this case, we're talking about wanting the roles and, again, the specific information of folks who receive SNAP benefits. The USDA asked for this information from all 50 states, and the grand majority of Republican-led states sent it over immediately. And there's a lot of Democratic-led states that are holding out on it. And the idea that this is the proper way to root out fraud is we'll go, well, let's just see who's on food stamps, and then we'll figure out if they're some of the people who committed fraud is so unlawful and objectionable. And beyond that, the thing that I struggle with is that there is not a trustworthy relationship now between states and the federal government. Mm-hmm. And that where that untrustworthiness is manifesting itself is growing and growing and growing. So it's not just, we can't collaborate with ICE, but we can't collaborate with the USDA because they're going to take, some form of an Excel spreadsheet and start figuring out what's going on with these people outside of just the fact that they receive SNAP benefits. Minnesota has to work well with the federal government. But if we can't trust the federal government, I don't know that we can do that. And that might mean people go hungry. And that's really scary.
Yeah. And I want to add that Democratic leaders do not want to provide this information because they are specifically worried the federal government will use it to target people for deportations. And if you're listening to this and thinking, I've heard a lot about fraud, well, is there fraud in SNAP? USDA would say they uncovered a bunch of fraud. They would say yes. However, NPR reports that they're not really providing any evidence to back that up. They're saying, under the Biden administration, SNAP benefits increased 40%. But a fellow in economic studies at the Brookings Institution told NPR that there's not really evidence for that, and the USDA hasn't clarified. So they're just cherry picking numbers and then not providing anything to back that up. So we don't really know to what extent this fraud exists.
If it exists at all.
If it exists at all.
We'd love to hear from you. What do you think about this action from the federal government moving in to Minnesota? Send us a text, leave us a voicemail on the CityCast Twin Cities hotline, 612-217-0637. You can hear those comments in an upcoming episode. There's more to discuss. Before we do that, we're going to take a quick break. I am the king of last-minute shopping. Sometimes you don't know exactly what you're going to do, and you're running out of ideas, and this is really where Aura Frames can come in. I got this for my parents down in Florida a couple of years ago, and it solves a lot of problems. I don't know what to get for my parents. Usually if there's stuff they want, they just buy it. So this is something that's a little special because you can stuff it with your own photos, family photos, and you can keep on getting those photos into that Aura frame even after it's dropped off. You download the Aura app, you connect it to Wi-Fi, and you can keep on adding it when you're on your vacation and your parents are bugging you to send pictures. Boom, it's one click. Now, for a limited time, you can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com, and you'll get $35 off of Aura's best-selling Carver Matte frames. The promo code you want to use is CityCast at checkout. That's AURA frames.com with the promo code CityCast. Terms and conditions apply. Em and Tiffany, I went to bed on Tuesday night thinking two things. I thought that the Timberwolves were going to get beat by whatever trash team we were playing. We were playing an awful team. The New Orleans Pelicans with none of their starters. And I was like, okay, we're going to get beat by this terrible team. We won in overtime, which is spectacular. I also went to bed thinking that Will Stancil, a name I've really only ever heard of because of Racket and heard of him as a sort of left-leaning Minneapolis lawyer who takes a lot of flack on Twitter. I went to bed thinking he was making a deep satire neo-Nazi cartoon show on Twitter. So I went to bed with a lot of mistakes. I now know that the Wolves won, thanks to Ant. Now I need to understand what is going on with Will Stancil. So, who the hell is Will Stancil?
Right. Okay. So I'm going to do my best to explain this, but I feel like it really is the type of story where like you have to be a little too online for it to even start to click for you. So Will Stancil he's based in Minneapolis. He is basically a prolific tweeter, policy nerd. You might be somewhat familiar with him offline because he ran for the state House of Representatives in 2024. But basically he's a guy who's loud on Twitter a lot for liberal causes. Like he like kind of he tells people that he doesn't enjoy it, but it seems like he enjoys it. He gets in fights with Nazis on Twitter, neo-Nazis. Like he is in like this constantly ongoing scrum with the people on the right on Twitter. And he has like, because of this, you know, and because Twitter is increasingly like a right-wing violent place, like he has been in the news a handful of times for things related to that. Like in July, Grok, which is that AI chatbot that Twitter has, told people, like gave them instructions for how to break into Will Stancil's home, assault him, and dispose of the body. And like that obviously became kind of a news story because what?
That's a chatbot going way beyond. You can't tell me someone didn't program racism directly into like /000 racism in the code. Coders don't come at me. Like, I know that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. So like he is always kind of finding himself in the middle of these big debates, and also like has found himself on the receiving end of a lot of like outward hatred from people on the right because he is loudly left. So he's being targeted again right now by a person named Emily Yokis, who is a self-professed socialist nationalist. She also has some history in cartooning. She had kind of a niche web series in the early 2000s, like weird internet era.
Very weird on YouTube.
Yes.
Very weird on YouTube.
Very weird on YouTube. Just recently, within the last couple months, started using Will Stancil's likeness, without his permission, of course, to create this thing called The Will Stancil Show, which she illustrates and she writes the scripts for, but then animates it with the AI video platform Sora. And has now created several episodes of The Will Stancil Show, which is basically neo-Nazi propaganda that's disguised as right-wing satire. There was just a great story in The Atlantic by the writer Tyler Austin Harper, and I'll just read you his description. The show features, quote, cruel gags about Black people in Minneapolis and cartoon Stancil's bumbling attempts to help them, extended jokes about a chatbot raping Stancil based on a real incident in which Grok, X's in-house AI, provided a user with instructions for sexually assaulting Stancil, and in one episode, a scene in which Tel Aviv gets nuked. These have like millions of views. The series has like 5 million views total, which maybe doesn't sound like a ton, but in the lead to the Atlantic story, they write that like the season premiere of The Simpsons had like just over 1 million views, you know, of people tuning in live. So like in terms of this kind of like weird flattening of the culture, it's pretty big, which is not great, probably.
There was a convenient thing that happened in your description, Em, that I want to rewind on real quick. If we just say socialist nationalist, some little part of my brain is like Zoran Mondani, like it's a socialist. Okay, here we go.
Right.
And we never called them Xenas. We called them Nazis. Socialist, nationalist. It spins it a lot more than calling them national socialists, which Nazi is a contraction of. Also, did y'all read the Atlantic article when Emily Yokis like explained why she doesn't totally appreciate being called Nazi? She was like, you don't call a communist a commie. And I was like, that is so wildly flimsy. So
these people will contort themselves into little like evil pretzels. It's like, come on.
To be clear, Yokis is very explicitly and describes herself as pro-white.
Yes.
We are not splitting hairs.
Yep.
It's the kind of incoherent politics that comes out of the YouTube edgy era of people who don't think seriously about their politics and just cobble it together from whatever terrible forum they've dived into and weird side of the internet. But they're really Trojan horsing it into the mainstream by disguising it as being unserious, as being satire. But Eustace literally told a podcast she was on, quote, "I'm memeing myself into power and I'm memeing National Socialism into the public." That's a terrible sentence.
Yep. Cursed collection of words.
Please go outside. I'm begging you for the country. Please go outside. Come to the Arboretum. Sit in the tranquility of nature, because that will rewire your brain so you don't do these things.
We're talking about this. Here's like a little spicy meatball. We're talking about this because the show is reasonably good. Like, the show is well produced. It costs $250 and probably tremendous amounts of labor to create it. But I watched like the 7 minutes of this 8 minute thing. I objected to a lot of it, but I recognized that the production values were good. There was moments where I said, comedically, if you isolate what's happening, I am laughing at what is happening. And I think a lot of the stuff that is created with AI, it falls apart because it doesn't make sense. This is clearly a coherent narrative. I am not calling it a coherent political stance, but I just mean like you can follow the episode. Is the main reason we're talking about this because maybe people without access to major budgets or studios are going to start being able to create content that'll really compete with the visuals of The Simpsons?
Yeah. I think the scariest part of this, as Harper points out, is that it's really making these radical right-wing ideas just more palatable to the average centrist audience. And it's using AI, which I feel is like very fitting. Like Harper points out, it's not AI slop. It looks good, like you said, Sean. And also because it's on X, there's no institutions and there's no guardrails to take it down. You're getting political takes straight from the gutter of the internet. And also, I just want to commend Will Stansel. We're also talking about this because it's about a local figure. However you feel about Stansel's political beliefs, I really want to commend him for how he's responded to this by pointing out, like, yeah, it's really scary for me, but I ultimately blame the institution that let this happen, which is Elon Musk's X. He removed community guidelines and policies that would have gotten this series taken down initially, and now it's just allowed to fester, and there's no one to tell Eustace, no, this is terrible.
I think one of the reasons that the story is so fascinating and also creepy is like, it's his name and his likeness that are in this show. Like, you should theoretically have some legal leg to stand on, right? To be like, hey, take this down. Like, I don't agree to this. Like, I don't want my name and my cartoon version of my face used in this racist, awful way. But there has been no recourse. Like, he's just like, I guess we just live like this now. And that's the scary part.
I want to zag on this commendation. I understand that I think it's probably the classy thing to say when Racket calls you, which I believe Racket did call Will for some kind of quote about this. If Will Stansel was my lawyer, I would fire him immediately. Because but the idea, if I was like, hey, reaching out to my lawyer and I go like, hey, somebody's used my likeness and created a cartoon and they don't have permission to do that. What can you do? And they'd be like, oh, there's a lot we can do. But hold on. Is it on X? Oh, my hands are tied. Like, this is the idea that because Elon Musk fired everybody who was in charge of keeping the guardrails on X, that now Will Stansel doesn't have, he's a lawyer, that Will Stansel doesn't have the ability to, litigate to get this shut down. It might fail, but his hands are not tied and your hands are not tied when somebody uses your likeness without your permission. Like, there's a lot Will Stansel could do, and maybe this is the classy take, but it's not the take I would want my lawyer doing in this instance.
I think Stansel did threaten to sue over the Grok chatbot, but I don't know if he actually ever followed through on it. I mean, I'd love to see them take it to court. I don't know what the precedent for suing for content on X is. But I agree. I hope some legal action happens, because what you're just sort of letting, not Stansel specifically, but like the collective legal community do we just let whatever happens on X happen on X? Just like let the cesspool fester? So I understand you're talking about, Sean, but yeah, something needs to be done there. And also I want to point out, going back to the reason we're talking about this, I'm not surprised that this random YouTuber decided to target somebody from Minneapolis. We are the rights punching bag right now. A white progressive man with lots of graduate degrees from a liberal city like Minneapolis is the perfect target. I'm not stumping for white men, just to be clear, but it doesn't surprise me. And like, let's not forget the caricatures of Black people in Minneapolis that USIS is depicting.
We want to hear from you. What do you think? Are you stumping for white men? No, we do not want to hear about that. We just want your take, and maybe you can recommend another lawyer to Will Stansel. Give us a call on the CityCast Twin Cities hotline, 612-217-0637. You might hear your comments in one of our future mailbag segments. We got a lot more. No, we don't have any more news to discuss. We have a lot more weed sandwiches to discuss. But before we do that, we're going to take a quick break. It's been a lot of heavy news, and it's time to get a little bit of information about restaurants, including the ongoing saga of Cheba Hut. Em, what is going on with Cheba Hut in Uptown?
So Cheba Hut is a weed-themed sandwich chain. There are like locations around the U.S. There's no weed in the sandwiches, to be clear. It's just like the sandwiches are like stoner themed. And it, after years and years, is finally going to open in Uptown, allegedly next week. They were supposed to open in June of 2022. Then again the next year. They were supposed to open again in 2024. And then that last operator or franchisee got evicted. And now there are new franchisees who, again, allegedly gonna open on Monday. So,
I gotta ask you. Allegedly, do you like to eat a sandwich when you're high?
yeah, of course. Oh my God, a sandwich when you're high? There's so many textures. It's really satisfying.
Tiffany, allegedly, do you like to eat a sandwich when you're high?
No. And I thought the concept of this for the longest time was sandwiches that get you high, which is a better concept than being like, are you high and need something to eat? Here's a I can go anywhere. I can go to Subway. Why do I need to go to a designated cannabis place that sells me sandwiches? And like, I don't like to shit on small businesses. You know, the franchisees seem pretty cool. One of them is a Dunwoody grad, according to Bring You the News. Nick Reckinger said, "This one's for the homies who remember Uptown before it got fancy." So you're gonna start a cannabis themed sandwich shop? Like, I'm gonna go eat a string cheese when I'm high.
I will say everything about this is like a little bit cursed. Like, it's just like, I don't know how I feel about this. Like, maybe the Cheba Hut just should never have opened in Uptown. Maybe this was a sign from the universe.
This is a sign from Lake Street.
Okay, listen, I don't want to eat just string cheese when I'm high. I'd like to eat it.
I do.
Okay, good for you, Tiffany. We're all happy. But listen, supposing I want to expand my food options, can you tell me about some new restaurants that have opened, even if they don't have weed themes?
Yes, I would be happy to. Yeah, we put out a restaurant roundup at the end of every month for Racket. So two of the ones that opened that I was really excited about, or am really excited about, that just opened in November are, you guys been to Lito's Burritos?
Hell yeah.
Oh my God. So originally located inside a Mexican restaurant in Richfield, now they have a standalone location near Lynn Lake. I'm going there tomorrow with a friend to get breakfast burritos. I cannot wait. I'm so excited. I love Lito's Burritos, and I'm very, very excited that there's a Minneapolis location now. And the other spot that I can't wait to check out is called Noco. It's a new...
love
you know
that
about that? Because you're like into Okame House, right? So
Yes.
So they're like, one of the owners of Okame House, which is wonderful, now is behind this new hand roll sushi bar. And I think they have like salads and rice bowls and stuff, but the sushi I'm really excited to try out.
I love Noco. The highlights are definitely the sushi, the hand rolls. They come with a lot of interesting toppings. I think I had eel and scallop, very good. My boyfriend also got the like cold foam beer. It's like a lot of foam on top of the beer, and you would think it's like soft, but it's actually hard. Like it's hard to describe, but people really like it.
All right, I'm bumping it to the top of my list.
Thank you for the rundown on these restaurants. Your dogged pursuit of the Cheba Hut beat has been wonderful throughout the years.
I'm going to be sad when it opens. I'll have nothing to do.
Thank you for joining us today on CityCast.
So much fun. Thank you as always.
Now a word from our friends at Cassel Energy, who encourage you to join them in supporting people serving people this holiday season.
For more than 40 years, this organization has been a cornerstone of support for families experiencing homelessness in Minneapolis.
And People Serving People is actually Minnesota's largest homeless shelter, and they provide comprehensive services to help families achieve stability and for those families to reach their full potential.
And the organization's reach is really incredible. In 2024 alone, they served more than 500 families, including nearly 900 kids.
And a great thing about People Serving People is the human touches. Every holiday season, they organize a gift drive that ensures that every child receives 3 to 4 gifts.
This year, Cassel Energy selected People Serving People as one of the recipients of its employee holiday toy drive, and they have ways for you to get involved too.
Now, this drive provides toys, books, and teen gifts, plus items that children can get something special to give to their parents.
There are 2 easy ways to give. Sean, what are they?
You can donate new toys, books, and teen gifts through People Serving People's online gift registry, or you can drop off items at their downtown Minneapolis shelter.
There's a lot of demand, and they're really looking for multicultural dolls, Legos, craft kits, adaptive toys, scooters, and sports equipment.
You can learn more about how to donate, and you can actually donate at the website peopleservingpeople.org. Just search Holiday Gift Drive 2025 to make a difference for families this season. That's all for today here on CityCast Twin Cities. I'm your host, Sean McPherson. M. Cassel, Tiffany Bui, we really appreciate you being with us today. You can get more news delivered right to your inbox by subscribing to the CityCast Twin Cities newsletter. If you enjoyed today's show, why not share this podcast with somebody who remembers when Uptown wasn't fancy? We'll see you back here tomorrow for more news from around the city.